Yeah, it is.
Hello, and welcome to the Alchemists Inkwell.
This is your spiritual podcast for grounded people. I'm sorry. I have such sass for the way that Zoom tells us that a recording is in progress. And Venus is now stationary. So she rules my sun. She's in my perfected house. I have a bit of extra sass this week than I usually do. And now you all get to hear it.
That was so fun. Yeah, you are. Oh my gosh. Well, welcome to the podcast, everyone.
Yeah.
It's a big week. It's a really, really big week.
It's astro heavy, or
It's astro heavy.
It's astro heavy. I might even call it dense.
What about astro plentiful? Let's go astro plentiful.
Astro abundant.
It's astro abundant. There are many astrology things occurring.
I will be filming several skits is what's happening here. Every time I look at the transits, I'm like, oh crap, I'm gonna have to hear how you're explaining this, because like the transits are happening and most of them are oppositions. So it's planets not seeing eye to eye with each other, and I've got to channel the planets and then script what they're saying and then express it for them. And I'm just like, really, guys, do we have to have this attitude this week? So that's how that is.
Yes, you do have to have this
sometime. Yeah. And then on top of it all, we do have Venus going retrograde, which I know we've talked about it a lot. I know social media is getting stirred up about it. And, it's not like it doesn't happen regularly. Planets move in circles. So we do track how they go. But it is something that, like, I think it's every 18 months Venus does this, or every 19 months. She will go retrograde for 40 days and 40 nights. Sound familiar? And so my mentor, Larry, actually was like, yeah, this is sort of like Lent. Like, yeah. So it's an interesting comparison. When you think about Venus, indulgence and things like that, going retrograde, maybe you withdraw from certain things that are indulged upon a little bit much or too sweet, things like that. But that's kind of what we want to talk about with this episode.
Yeah, I do want to say, just looking at how the last couple of weeks have shaken out now, like being able to look back at it, we did a lot of clearing of stuff to make room for action and movement. And when I say clearing of stuff, it was real emotional. You probably cried or raged or something. Like, we did a lot of that. Maybe you physically were like, I'm clearing out stuff too, or changing appearance stuff to like clear out space to feel different. And we did that. And then this past week, action happened. Like, so much action happened. Very random action, very like spontaneous action, a lot of very quick decisions, or a lot of, things happening to you. We're like, oh, okay, I guess this is what we're doing. I'm going to roll with it. Very random, lots of stuff. And that is because we cleared out that space. That's because we moved stuff to let the action happen. So it's important to kind of keep that perspective in mind, because now more action's going on, more action's going to happen. Most likely, though, a lot of this action that we're going to be stepping into, at least from what I'm able to see in the energy space, is going to be more communication based, of course, like between other people, between ourselves, connection based, magical action stuff. Like, look for those validations, because they're coming. They're gonna get you. Look for the like ghost spirits energies. If you get a ping about something, lean in on it. Lots of those sorts of things, still rapidly transforming our life, though. So that did not slow down from this past week. If anything, we're in it. We're in the bit of it. That is the weird thing that's going to take us through the next couple months.
Yeah. So and I want to, like, for anybody who's into astrology and we're talking about things moving fast and you're like, wait, but Venus is going retrograde. And then like everybody's going to be retrograde by the end of August. So like we have a lot of retrogrades happening. One of the things that I see is, especially this week, it's a lot of like shoving out of the comfort zone that we've been feeling out for the last couple of weeks. And then we spend the rest of this time exploring that new comfort zone and getting comfortable in it. So though it doesn't necessarily mean fast actions, it's a lot to take in. And I think that's
it's
one
a lot to do.
Like, yeah, it's a lot of like, it's busy work. It's the packing for the journey kind of thing. Like when you have or packing for the move, which both of us are kind of resonating with right now. You more than anybody. Hey, everybody, Emily got a house. It's really cool.
I mean, we got offer accept. We still got escrow. So we're going to
I
hold our
know.
breath there, but
I'm just gonna, yeah. And again, we have Venus going retrograde. So things like escrow, the waiting period, but plenty to do, makes a lot of sense. So great metaphor.
Yeah.
But even
You're
in
welcome. I planned it.
a little bit, we did pull horror and stuff, but
I
yeah,
mean, yeah, we did,
yeah.
but
I mean,
it
we try
wasn't that
to,
much of a plan.
no, because sometimes you just like follow the magic and you go along with it. Sometimes you actually intend the magic and like infuse it. I find the most influential and effective magic is when you can see the magic available and you pick it. And that's kind of what I think it ends up being. I think we have a question at the end of the episode that will kind of go into that even deeper. So that's perfect.
Yeah.
But you know what I realized this morning? I was doing I'm talking a lot about Venus retrograde this week. I'm doing like a live broadcast on a new app. On Thursday, I think I have a live broadcast where I'll be talking about Venus retrograde. But I was thinking about it, and in the middle of this other thing, I was like, oh, I know a really great example of how Venus retrograde is already showing up, because Venus does art. Venus does communication. We've been saying for a while on this podcast, Venus retrograde in Leo is going to be, do I feel seen? Is this fair? Is everybody getting what they need out of the relationship? So you might have some negotiations and mitigations. Writers strike much. And actors strike. So, the artists saying this is not a fair situation. We need to be seen. We need to be represented. And the actors joined in en masse, and it got a lot more attention over this weekend as Venus hit the 28th degree of Leo, which is where she's stopping. So it is coinciding with the specific astrology. And we'll see, as a timeline, we'll see on this Saturday, she does officially start moving backwards. This whole week, she's a bit of a standstill on that 28 degrees of Leo. She'll start moving backwards. She'll have her halfway point, the Cazimi, around the 12th of August at 20 degrees of Leo. Then she'll keep on going until the 3rd of September when she gets back to the 12th degree of Leo. Then she'll move forward again, cover everything one more time, and we'll be able to, move forward. I've also been kind of comparing it to when you lay down cement or a sidewalk, how you lay down the cement and it's all wet and then a cat walks through it. That's the retrograde. And then you have to smooth everything out and get rid of anything that's not supposed to be in there during the retrograde. And then by the time the cement settles, you get to walk forward again. So that's the same. We imagine we're working on this set of degrees in Leo with Venus the way you would by laying down cement for a sidewalk.
Or you could leave the cat paw prints if that feels best to you.
Yeah.
You can have a kitty cat sidewalk. We love that.
Whatever feels best and works for you is what, and I would really emphasize that truly, this is Venus and Leo, whatever feels best to you is important. Whatever makes you feel like you are expressed and seen and known and understood.
Yeah. What I will say truly, and I've been channeling on this for a while and I'm comfortable talking about it on here because historians, and I follow a lot of historians and I care a lot about historians, obviously, because I do a lot of channel history stuff, have been talking about how this is a second Gilded Age for a really long time. And with the strikes that are currently happening, and UPS is about to go on strike too, and a bunch of other stuff, I am pretty dang sure we're seeing a second Gilded Age collapse. And when I look at the energy of it, that's genuinely what it looks like. Like the let them eat cake time. We're in the I can fly my dick rocket to space time. And that's ending.
Well, even Starbucks is going through their people unionizing and that kind of situation. So, it's not the first thing I would have said when I looked at Venus retrograde. I think about Venus and, all these things. And then it's like, oh, but that's how she's showing up. And it's happening on the coattails of other transits we have this week. And just really quickly, if it's an appropriate time for me to plug those in. So
go for it.
Yeah, thank you. On the 20th, the sun will trine Neptune on the same day that Mars perfects an opposition with Saturn. Now, fortunately, neither Mars nor Saturn is especially debilitated or especially dignified. So they're just sort of hanging out there. Nobody has like the necessary upper hand kind of thing. But we do have that sun trine Neptune, which shows that Neptune is about to have a retrograde experience soon. And it's going to be like a slow soon. When the sun has a trine with an outer planet, they're getting ready to go retrograde. The further out they are, the longer it's going to take, or the less exact, but we know it's soon. And if I moved my calendar ahead, I'd find the exact date, but I do know it's going to be like next month. So we don't have to worry about it immediately. That being said, the Mars opposite Saturn I mean, can you spell tension with logistics and conflict with authority and that kind of stuff in any clearer terms? And then the sun trine Neptune is either creative solutions or dissolving of organization, right? So you have to see the sun trine Neptune as making it easy for things to dissolve, which means it's easier for us to see through boundaries or to see through or to, you know, be okay and okay, comfortable in the fog kind of stuff, be okay with not knowing. There's a lot of stuff about that, but then we do have that flavoring alongside this Mars Saturn opposition, which is saying, yeah, stuff's tense. So to me, it's, you know, is the sun making it easier for things to be tense because it's also adding confusion? Or is it saying, hey, we'll diffuse some of the tension by letting people be more flexible? I don't think we're going to get the latter, but I just want to express that that is a potential, maybe in your more personal life, being willing to adapt or see things in a new way will help navigate the tensions, to be able to say, you know, I'm trying to pick between door number 1 and door number 2. I forgot there's a door number 3. Look for the door number 3 if you can find it, something that actually works or possibly even creates a win-win for everybody, because that's preparing us for that Venus retrograde, but also on the 21st. So the very next day, this is a Thursday, I believe. Actually, no, it's Friday. This calendar starts on Monday, so my eyes are all thrown off. But the sun will oppose Pluto, marking the halfway point of Pluto's retrograde. Now, the sun opposite Pluto, we're aware of transformation that we're going through. We're getting clarity on transformation that we're in. We're recognizing the need to change or the need to let something go so we can bring something else in. So again, that making space. And that's all, of course, the day before Venus retrograde, on the same day that the sun also comes into Leo. And then really quickly, that's followed by on Sunday, Mercury square Uranus. So changes that come and demand a little bit of action along with them. So you can see how, in the context of either what's going on in your own life or what's going on in the headlines, it's a dynamic week that is calling for recognition, action, something to be done. Like, see me now, I've been waiting too long kind of energy.
What I will say with that is, I think, you know how there was all the tech layoffs last year, and we were like, okay, that's happening, and that's going to create kind of a new renaissance of like individual business, which I do think we are seeing already kind of come up, of new businesses kind of percolating on the side, and especially in like kind of tech industries and things like that. I think this is going to be the reversal of that when I look at the energy of it, where I think we're going to see over the next basically 2.5 months a mass quitting of people just done with the jobs that they've been stuck in pre-2020. I think that's going to be the big indicator, in my opinion. If you've been in a job since pre-2020 and now it's feeling like a sweater that's 3 sizes too small and incredibly itchy, those are the people that are going to be like, yeah, no, I'm not being appreciated and I'm going to go. And that's going to reinforce all of the new businesses, because there's going to be new workforce hitting. And that's, I really think that's how it's going to be, where it's like reversing on the corporation, if that makes sense. Instead of layoff, it's going to be quitting. And it's going to be really interesting, because I will say that that means there's going to be a really neat refresh in things. I think that's also why things like interest rates and stuff are going up, because I think it's about to get refreshed. It doesn't feel scary. I just want to preface that. I don't think it's scary. I just think it's people are like, and I'm done. And I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. And I want to take 2 weeks off. And then I'm going to come back at the job market with like actual renewed perspective of what I want to do. I think we're going to see a lot more like socialist style job structures in the next year and a half, which Krista and I will tell you, we are all about. We would love socialist business structure.
We're working on that ourselves.
Where it's a lot more resource sharing. It's a lot more, we're all equal. It's a lot more, we all have decision making power in the workforce, those kinds of things. I think that is what's kind of going to come up. I think unions are going to get more power, because that is a very, we need to share stuff sort of space. And I think a lot of that does kick off because Venus is deciding it's going to. Genuinely is how it looks. So that's just like my 2 cents of like how I think it's going to applicably show up in our kind of day-to-day structure.
Venus to me is that person on the speed date who's hitting the buzzer early. I'm just saying, I'm done with you now. Like moving forward, moving on next.
Awesome. Sorry, I just got a very important text message. So I was just Um, yeah, but I agree with that. And I also want to just say, like, it's a really lovely time. And this goes for any retrograde, but especially this one, because we did have a different Venus retrograde 2 years ago.
In the winter of 2021. Yep.
Yeah.
In Capricorn. The
In
last time we
which
had
was
one in Leo was 2015, around the same time of year. For anybody who's wondering, like, go back 8 years, see what was going on in your life around then, see if any of those similar themes are coming up now. But anyway, yeah, the last Venus retrograde that was in Capricorn actually was in 2021 December.
It's really hilarious. I will tell you why later. Actually, I can probably just say now that was the last time I moved.
Hey.
To this house.
Yeah. Awesome.
And yeah, so really funny.
More
anyway,
validation. Yay.
That's really hilarious. Beside the point. What I was going to say is what you want to do is examine the things in your life that feel very, Venusian. Like where is the divine feminine? Because that's the easiest touch point for Venus energy. Where does the divine feminine show up in your life? Are you noticing places that it's lacking? Are there places where you're resisting it? Are there those are the places to look at. And I do just want to say everyone has a divine feminine and divine masculine. We're talking energy here. We're not talking gender or sex or anything like that. It's just energies. So I just always want to preface that whenever we talk about it, because that's what we're actually talking about. Everyone can examine this. But divine feminine energy is the energy of flow. It's the energy of protection, but like the motherhood mama bear sort of protection, not the protect my assets sort of protection.
Yeah, it's the reception as compared to the like action. There are words that are used in yin and yang, and I've heard, and they're really perfect, but some people might giggle. The masculine is more penetrative, it's more ambitious, it's more pointed and directed, and then the feminine is more receptive, more in flow, more ready to like nurture and hold boundaries in that way. So
I love watching you blush at that. That was
I
really
know
funny.
I try not to. I'm like, listen, it's just a word, okay, but if it makes you laugh, I'm glad it brought you joy.
Yeah. But yeah, that's just like nurturing. Like, are there areas where you used to be creative and now you're not really letting creativity flow? Are you being called to be more creative in areas? And would you like to tap into it? Those are all very divine feminine sort of thing. It's I'm receiving creative energy. I'm creating from there instead of I am making a plan and doing the plan and the plan is going to be the thing. That's the difference. Both are beautiful. Both are wonderful. Divine masculine, divine feminine are both wonderful, awesome energies, especially when expressed in a healthy way. They can also be very detrimental if expressed in a very unhealthy way. They're both. But when a very divine feminine planet is in retrograde, look at those areas, because those are most likely the areas where you're going to be bridging some gaps.
Yeah. And in the traditional 7 planets that we look at, Venus and the moon are really the only representations of the feminine that we get. So it's interesting to be able to look at Venus and say, wow, you're really carrying a lot of weight for the feminine energies here. What does that mean for me? In newer astrology since the 70s, and since we've discovered some more things, there are cases made for particularly the 4 goddess asteroids and things. And I highly recommend Demetra George's Asteroid Goddesses book. I'm reading it now in preparation for a workshop in December. But Venus is like the Aphrodite, the OG feminine archetype, along with the moon, who does more of a nurturing thing. But Venus is that whole picture. So it's a really interesting thing to recognize that, like, even that it's a little bit out of balance, So how can we bring more balance to it with our actions and our decisions, choices?
On that note, I will also say it is still probably going to be very emotional, because that does tend to be a more divine feminine space, is the flow of emotion, the release of emotion. Both sides have emotion. No one side is governing emotion, but the actual release of those is a very divine feminine thing. Again, receptive, right? You're being receptive to your own emotions, you're experiencing them, and then you're letting them go. Like,
the courage to be honest about how you feel about something. I mean, again, courage, Leo, Venus does honesty really well with the Taurian attributions. But if we were honest more often, maybe more of our emotions wouldn't be so cooped up and need the releasing. So this is a great time to get used to being honest about your emotions. And maybe that's something you take with you even after Venus is through with her retrograde. Again, I'm not ashamed to admit that one of the proactive ways, seeing how lit up this was in my chart and my partner's chart, and even like I mentioned it to you, I was like, listen, Venus retrograde is going to hit me hard when it comes to partnerships, which include business partnerships. So my husband and I proactively, sort of as a preventative medicine kind of thing, we're going to do some couples counseling and just make sure that we understand where we're both at, that we know how to support each other and all those things, removing the attachment of emotion to it so we can actually feel our own emotions. You and I are doing what we're doing with our publishing company and things, and negotiating a lot of relationship things in that. And I think that's super wise. And I'm very happy for us doing that, because it's a conscious moving forward and acknowledgement of everything we need to have to be seen and to function in our genius.
Yeah, absolutely. Fully agree. I fully agree with all of those things, or at least just, intentionally making time for conversation is important. Like if you can't do couples counseling or whatever, but you want to examine partnerships, like intentionally making time. Also, if you're in a place where maybe you have a partnership that is struggling already, this is a great time to be like, okay, it's either going to work itself out over the course of this retrograde, or I will understand where I need to move or what I need to do by the end of it. And like setting that intention and understanding that, it's a perfect time for that.
Yeah. And also, if you're in an unsafe situation, don't wait for the transits.
Oh gosh,
like,
no.
Yeah. So this is with the understanding that you're in a position of, I'm not sure what I want yet. I'm not sure. I know a lot of people may also be questioning their own judgments right now. And normally I'd be the person that's like, hey, trust your intuition, go with it. However, Venus is about to go retrograde. So maybe this is a good time to get an outside opinion, to explore the rationality of your intuitions, to journal your questions about things, and make sure that you are receiving intuition and not some kind of reaction to an emotion, which is a little bit different. One is in defense of programs that we have and limiting beliefs possibly, or keeping us safe in situations that don't feel safe. And then another one is, I know that this is the right thing for me. So, you can figure out which one it feels like for you. If you need to explore it deeper, don't be afraid to get help doing that, or to use the tools that will help you.
Yeah. Also, and this is going to do this with your understanding of your own mental health and how things work for you. Like, I'm not pushing this just because we say it. Don't just follow it blindly. If that's not good for mental health, don't do it. And also this next piece of advice, same on that. Because your mental health matters the most. Your physical health matters the most. Be safe and healthy. The end.
Like, we're not telling you how to live. We're giving you ideas on how you might actually,
express,
be creative and live yourself.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing is, if you are struggling with a particular partnership and there is someone that is really opinionated about that partnership, external, it can be beneficial during this time to go and actually listen and hear them out fully. Be like, why don't you like this for me? Please give me all of your reasons why. I'm going to listen and not get triggered. I'm going to intentionally sit here and listen to other perspectives on it, because having those external perspectives will be really helpful. And it literally might be like, oh, okay, well, I do truly disagree. I think you have the wrong perspective, but now that I know that perspective, I can accurately disagree instead of emotionally disagree. Or it can be like, oh, I didn't see that. I need to explore that energy. Either way, this would be a great time to do that. Have that external person that ordinarily you wouldn't ask for advice on this or wouldn't ask for their opinion on this, just for your peace of mind, to share that opinion. And you don't have to act in any sort of way just because someone shares their opinion, but it can be really, really helpful during this time where you might be reevaluating tough relationships.
Yeah, I know, like, one of the most meaningful tools I have ever used in my relationships, and it was totally divinely inspired one day, was I sat down in a situation where normally a relationship would be tense. And I was able to recognize that. And I said, I can make you a promise that whatever you have to say, I will not get mad at it. Like, you have this safety of knowing I am not going to react and shut you down. And that's where my communication with my partner really established. And we've been able to do that ever since. Like, sometimes we'll have a conversation and I'm like, total honesty, that kind of hurt my feelings, but here's why. And we actually express it. And then he has the ability to say, oh, no, I meant it this way. And if it's acceptable, great, I have clarity. If it's not acceptable, we get to continue the negotiation until it's acceptable for both of us. And that's another thing, is we never argue in a straight line. We argue in a loop, so that we get all the way back around to understanding where we came from. You argue all the way through. And if it is argue, we still lean into it. Like sometimes we do get reactions. Once we get past our emotion, we get back to the, oh, wow, I get it now. And that's one of the things that I think has strengthened us. And if it works for you guys, if it sounds like an option, I just want to put it out there as an idea.
Really, relationships to examine, you and your spirit guides, you and your higher self, like on a very much more metaphysical space. Like, yeah, those are going to be kicking up. They're going to be around.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, like those experiences where maybe even people who aren't even tuned into their guides are all of a sudden going to, hear things they need to do, or feel a push to do this XYZ thing, that kind of thing. Those, yes.
Well, and that's an amazing point. Yeah. Think about, astrologically, you're going to feel this more if you have fixed angles, or if your sun/moon is fixed. And so that means if you have Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, or Aquarius as your rising sign, then this is somewhere that's happening in a way that's more personal for you, that is showing up more. If none of those are your rising signs, you may actually not notice this too much. So you may actually be like, Venus retrograde, what? I know that this is angular for me and a lot of people in my life. I even rectified my dog's chart this weekend because Jack's in a cone. He's okay, you guys, but he's in a cone. And my first thought, of course, was like, this happened when Saturn went retrograde. I think I can figure out his rising sign. And I figured it out. I'm pretty sure he's a Leo rising, which surprises nobody. So now we know that he also will be affected by this Venus retrograde a little bit more directly. But thinking about that, it'll be more in your immediate sphere of personal experience. Whereas if those, again, the Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, Aquarius, if those aren't your rising sign or your moon sign or your sun sign, or maybe even your Venus sign, let's throw that in there, you may not notice it. You may actually kind of get the Venusian pass on this one. It'll happen. You'll still have something. And if you're looking for it in whatever house Leo is in for you, or even what Venus rules for you, you'll probably notice it and be able to work with it, but it may not be as prominent.
Venus is my ruling planet, so I'm just going to feel all of the feelings every time there's a Venus retrograde.
She's also your perfected time lord for the year.
I was going to say, she's also my time lord.
Yeah.
So
Leo's angular for me, and she's transiting through my perfected house because Leo is my perfected house from the ascendant and the sec light. So
if you're one of those lucky people that are getting a Venusian pass on this one, and you would like to understand how it is for everybody else, you'll hear it here.
Yeah, we'll keep you informed. We're going to feel it.
We're going to feel it big.
Like, this is why I've been so proactive, you guys. I even have, I did a Venus talisman for one of my masterpieces when I was in my mentorship with Christopher Warnock for Astrological Magic. And I buried it in the branches of a tree. Or a little, it's an abundance tree. It's in a little pot. And I buried it in the roots so that it would symbolize more growth and sturdiness and support and whatever. And I realized that tree is not thriving as much as it should because the roots outgrew the pot. So I actually had Dan and I, we went out, we bought a new pot, we bought soil, and we picked up the tree together and moved it together and like made a group project, literally both of our hands moving the tree at an elected time for Venus and all these things to sort of symbolize that we are committed to the growth of this relationship rather than the separation. Nice. It was cute, a little magical thing we did. And it was fun because again, he supported the magic, which was great.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we had a really awesome question in the Patreon. So let's talk about that really quick. Yeah. So I'm going to read it because it's a good one. Okay. What are some of your favorite rituals and practices? Moon water, simmer pot, cinnamon, and incense are all things we have all probably heard of. But what else do you find refreshing and helpful? Great question. Whole bunch of these. We've talked probably about these before, but I'm just going to give like brief things. In the shower, doing cleansing and releasing is super important to me. I do that every single time I shower. And also try to tap into my intuition while I shower as well on purpose, because water is very intuitive. You're connecting with water. It's probably the only time you're going to really fully connect with water externally for like the whole day. So that is an important thing, which I think we forget about, to be totally honest, quite a bit of like, hey, that is another layer of stuff. That one's a big one, obviously, like the moon water, incense, etc. There's little rituals that I do throughout the day, and I know you have a similar thing as well, where you'll do little rituals. I set my intention in my morning coffee. That's important to me. What is my day going to be like? I use my cards to activate my water throughout the day. That's important to me. Also, just like little things like in between readings and stuff, I like hold one of my selenite pieces because that is a big deal to like let some energy be clear. I always have a candle burning when I do readings because it feels like it holds space for additional intuition, which is what the dedication of the candles always is. I'll either just simply dedicate the kind of candle with energy, or I'll even carve on the candle sometime to make that space be a space for me, so that when I light it, my intuition genuinely expands because that was the intention. Things like that, just do tiny little simple things. When cooking, thinking of it as a ritual, because it is. You're combining all 4 elements to create something you're going to ingest. That is a very significant ritual. Things like that. What about you?
Yeah, the first one I always think of is, again, whenever I'm creating something that I'm going to take in, which is mostly food, every time I have an ingredient, I'm thinking to myself, this serves me in this way, and I'm grateful for it. This serves me in this way, and I'm grateful for it. So like seasonings and other things in the food, definitely. I love reading and having like whatever energy I'm with, like kind of channeling in as I'm reading, whether it's an ancient text or a book or a movie or even a video game. I like just kind of keeping the dialogue open of like, how is this informing my life? How is, that kind of stuff. I make fiction magical with every breath. I have, when I'm feeling ungrounded or I'm feeling like I'm working with someone who's drawing on my energy too much, I have this guy. This is my best friend when it comes to, I don't have enough energy in the moment to handle something. It's very heavy. So I've got that. Yeah. And it's just, there's a lot of stuff. Journaling is really important to me. Understanding my transits and working alongside them is really important to me. Setting intentions and singing them a lot of the time. I will sing. You'll notice when I've had like a long day of consultations, I get up and I like go get myself some food or something, but I'm singing the whole time to let go of anything that's on me. That helps me a lot. And usually the words that come out they're made up on the spot. And sometimes they make sense and sometimes they don't.
Yeah. I'll also do that quite a bit. Very similarly. Also, it's really important to me that the energy of that I'm feeling the most is reflected to me in various ways. So I will do that with, of course, like clothes. I'm very intentional with the clothes that I'm wearing. And unfortunately for my wallet, I do change my wardrobe really often because the energy has changed and therefore it needs to reflect back to me externally. I do a lot of thrifting and stuff, but like very much so that that's why I change my nails all the time, because again, the energy has changed. I want it to be changed. I want it to feel different. That's an easy way. My phone themes and stuff, my energy has changed. So now I need it to reflect that there. Same. I'm very choosy on a bunch of different areas on that with intention. So it feels like a ritual because it is intentionally me being like, what does the energy feel like right now? I'm going to sit with it. I need this to reflect that energy and sit with that. So that is very much a ritual. That is what it is. Like that is a ritual for sure. Even just going outside, if you're going on a walk around the block or something, can be very, very simple, but really practical for your energy to be like, okay, what am I going to pick up from this walk? Or I'm intentionally setting that I'm going to find something on this walk that matters to me, or X, Y, and Z. And of course, in fiction also constantly.
I found actually like when I do get in a very overwhelmed state that like nobody can help me, I will run to I usually pick a tree. I have not picked a tree here. But I had a tree back at our old house and I had a tree at the house before that where I would go sit under that tree and I would tell the tree how I was feeling and kind of let the tree talk to me. And I find like my guides will come sit with me as I'm in that moment. But having a tree, which is why like anytime I move somewhere, I'm like, nope, there's got to be more trees than this. It's usually a dogwood tree. I really like them. Yeah, I had a dogwood in my childhood home, and then I had a really great climbable dogwood in my like later childhood home, and it had rocks and I would sit underneath it. Here I have not found that yet. But we've only been here a couple months, and then we had to like move again because it was only a rental for a temporary time. But yeah, I always find trees, they help me a lot.
Nice. Yeah, trees also help me a lot. I'm not usually connected to one specific one. It'll be like, oh, because I live in the forest. So for me, I'm like, oh, there's trees around.
Yep.
What do you want to yell at me? What am I messing up on? Because trees are really honest, and they're kind of mean because they're very direct and they don't care about you.
Especially the older trees. Maybe that's why I would go to the dogwoods, because they're like a thinner tree, and they're more, and they'll flower in the spring, and they're just like, oh, how are you doing? And I'm just like, I have big feelings, and they can hold them because they're a dogwood tree. So.
Yeah, where I'll tell you, I lived in the redwoods. Like, I lived in the California redwoods, the ones that are world record holders and the oldest trees on planet. Like, I've lived there, and they are real direct. Like, that's a nice petty problem. Awesome. They don't care. I mean, they do. They're really wonderful mentors, but they're going to tell you what's up, and they're not going to spare your feelings. So just keep that in mind when working with trees. The older they are, the more likely they're going to be like, well, this is the truth. What do you want from me? Okay, I guess so. Like, think about the Ents in Lord of the Rings. It's very much like that.
Very much. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we have come to the end of this episode. Thank you for joining us on this ride.
Yeah.
We hope the new moon was really awesome for you.
Yep. And next week, not only will we finally be able to announce certain things, I think, I'll be able to announce at least one thing. So we'll have stuff. But we also are going to have a guest next week who is going to help us understand mediating relationships in tough situations. Her name is Janelle, and she actually, her whole job is being a mediator of relationships. And also she helps us with conscious contracts. So probably hearing more about that as well. Just being conscious with our agreements and our connections with people.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool. We love having guests on here, so that's going to be awesome. And we do definitely, I think we will actually have two biggie announcements, I think, which is really exciting. One in particular,
been sitting on them for so long.
Oh my gosh. And then it's going to be a season of announcements, to be totally honest, because we're going to announce that, and then a month or two we'll announce that, and when a month or two we're going to announce that. Like, it's going to be a lot of that going on for the next bit of time. So yeah. Stoked.
Plenty
Yay,
of exciting
Venus retrograde. Oh, awesome. Well, we appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for being here. And we hope that you take the energy of Venus retrograde and you
go make some
magic.
Did that feel good for you?
I think that was great. I thought it was fabulous.
I was going to say, I don't know, because you guys will tell us. Thanks.
It was so spectacular.